Hey y'all, Laura here with Cox Homestead, and in today's video I'm going to share with you how we collect, sell, and use our bunny berries. Bunny berries is what I call rabbit manure. It's a cute little marketing technique that make it sound fun and exciting. And what are bunny berries? I've had so many people ask me, what are bunny berries? You know, it creates some talk around it. So when you're thinking of marketing something maybe less desirable by some, come up with a fun name. It might work. But I will say bunny berries or rabbit manures, whatever you want to call it, I just said manures, so, you know, call it whatever you want, is to be desired. People love this stuff, they need this stuff, they want it. It doesn't need a fun name. I just do that because, well, why not? I'm a fun person. So today I'm going to share with you just a little bit about how it is beneficial to our homestead and others in our community. But before I do that, I'm going to give these rabbits some apple peels. We are in an apple season here in East Tennessee, and in fact, I think these apples happen to be from an is it IPM farm in Pennsylvania? If I say that wrong, I'll put it on the bottom. But an integrated pest management farm in Pennsylvania. And so we have some in the dehydrator going right now, and I love to share some of the peels with my rabbits. I don't do any seeds. So if you have seeds in there, make sure you're avoiding those to your rabbits, but everything else is fair game. That one went to the chicken because it hit the ground. Chickens don't care if it has dirt on it. I care if my rabbits have dirt. So this is just a fun little treat to keep them happy while I work in front of them. Some of these rabbits have never had apples here before. They're new, and I don't give new rabbits any treats for a few weeks. So once they've been here a while, then I'll let them have some treats. Okay, that at least gets this little area taken care of. I'll have to go in there and feed those others in a little bit. But now they're happy, and hopefully they'll look all cute for the video. That's what we want, right? So first, let's start off with why in the world would you want to save rabbit manure? Why would you even want to use it? How much is coming out of them? All the things. Well, let me just tell you, rabbit manure is one of the best things you can add to your plants, gardens, raised beds, anything. It is so good because it's very natural. That sounds so generic, but it's not a synthetic fertilizer. It is a natural fertilizer with a 2-1-1 of NPK. It is not hot, meaning it will not burn up your plants. You can use it immediately. It kind of has a slow release action because it starts in a ball and decomposes down. You can also take it and make teas, which people really get confused when I say make bunny berry tea. It's not a tea to drink, it's a tea to water your plants with. It is just a very easy on your plant, but so beneficial fertilizer. The worms love it. I use it in my worm compost bin. I use it in the garden and notice an increase in worms from using it. So overall, you simply can't go wrong by using it. I have filled potted plants with half bunny berries and half potting soil to save on some of my potting soil costs, and I've had beautiful luck with using it in my pots too. And raised beds, I have filled raised beds half full of bunny berries, half full of other things, and it has worked really well. I know that there's some people that even experiment with planting directly into bunny berries. If you've done that, let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear your experience and to hear from you. So it is a very nutritious fertilizer for your plants. It is 2% nitrogen, 1% phosphorus, and 1% potassium. That NPK is what you'll see most fertilizers use to let you know what's in it, with most plants needing the highest amount of nitrogen and the other two to follow. We have used this in our garden and have found it to be sufficient for everything. The only other thing we've really supplemented in the garden is this year we supplemented our white potatoes a little bit to try and get more and bigger potatoes. And I want to say that we used more potassium on that, and it did work for our white potatoes. Otherwise, all we've used is bunny berries in our garden, and occasionally I'll sprinkle on a little organic fertilizer from the store that's overpriced. But hey, it makes me feel better about my gardening deeds up there. Why is it important to collect this poop? Well, let me tell you. Rabbit excretes 200 to 300 balls of poop a day. That's a lot. And if you are not collecting or managing that somehow, it will pile up. It will end up taking over your world in your rabbitry because it is a lot of poop fast. So essentially what you put into these guys is about what you'll get out in poop. Now, some of that is building muscle, especially as they're growing, because you're putting even more food in them. But once they're at the maintenance stage, you get back about what you put in of your investment, and it's totally worth it. I tell every gardener they need at least one rabbit to be making fertilizer for their garden, because that poop is so good. And if you don't have the rabbit, you can just buy the rabbit feed and try that too. I don't think it's nearly as fun as having a rabbit. So you're going to need a way to manage this poop. When we first got them, we researched different trays and different catch systems to collect the poop, but ultimately it came down to we were on a budget, and we didn't want to put a lot of money into this till we knew if it was going to give us any money back. So we started with a tray underneath. It was an old piece of metal roofing or siding or something, and we hung it under there, and we used that for probably the first 2 years, and until I was like, this method is not productive for us. It's a mess. I have to scoop it out of the bucket, out of the tray, into a bucket, and it just seems like it was collecting urine bad. I couldn't get enough holes drilled in it, and I just wasn't happy with the product of poop I was getting from it. So we switched to buckets and tubs completely after that. And buckets aren't necessarily the most appealing option for people. If you don't like the looks of it, this may not be the best method for you. Check out some other methods. But I had a bunch of buckets from left here at this farm, from picking them up free here and there, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to use this method because I observed my rabbits and where they pooped, and they tend to always poop in the same spots. They can be litter box trained. They are animals of habit. They like to go in the same spot, just like we do in the toilet. They like to go in the bucket if you put the bucket where they go. So I would observe my rabbits and start putting buckets where I saw them going most often. So I put the buckets where they go most often, and then if I give them hay, I put that as far away as I can from where they go to the bathroom most often. And so therefore I had what I call grade A poop in that bucket, and then I had grade B waste over here, and that would have some hay in it, it would have some poop in it, it might have, you know, whatever else treats I've given them, whether that be grass or greens or apple pills or something that may have fell through, because I put all the treats in the same spot that's going to fall through. Thus, it keeps the hay separated from the poop the best that I can. And then when that 5-gallon bucket of poop is full, I just take and dump it into a plastic feed bag or plastic seed bag or pine shaving bag, whatever I have or it has been donated here, and therefore I'm not having to scoop up and measure those 5 gallons. The bucket is already full. Now, I know buckets are round and cages are square or rectangle, so it's not going to fit exactly under your cages, and therefore if you would prefer totes, you can use that method too. I like the buckets because it gives me that 5-gallon increment that I need every time when it comes to selling the bunny poop. Some poop will fall around the buckets, and then I will just shovel it up and fill up another bucket if it's grade A, or fill up the grade B bucket if it's grade B. I have to do this, depending on the time of year and how many rabbits and babies we have going, about once a month. If we have a lot going, I may need to do it more often. If we have dwindled down, I may be able to go 6 weeks. Just depends on how many rabbits we have and what the input is like at that time. We have approximately 18 breeders in our rabbitry right now, and that's a lot of poop. So 18 times 200 to 300 a day, holy balls, that's a lot of bunny berries. So I don't even want to think about the collection that we have. But I thought before we ever even had our first babies, I was like, I think these rabbits can start making me money. And I started putting the poop up for sale. I first started selling it for $1 a gallon. And then I realized, wow, there's a high demand and I'm doing a lot of work for not a lot of money. And I'm going the extra mile to make sure my hay is not sprayed and to make sure that my feed is non-GMO, soy free. So I think I can charge more for this because I didn't really want to do the work for $5 a bucket anymore. So I doubled it. I doubled it to $10 a bucket. And guess what? come what every spring, I sell out. The demand is still there. People know how valuable this is to their garden. And I think some of that has to do with maybe my marketing just a little bit, but a lot of it comes from people read these gardening books and they'll tell them, look for rabbit manure, or maybe a wise person in their life told them, get some rabbit manure, so on and so forth. If you have rabbits, you have a marketing opportunity, even if you don't want to sell the offsprings, to sell some of their manure. So I started selling it for $2 a gallon, which is $10 a bucket, and it still sells. And I have some people that I do bartering with for it, and some that I just sell it straight outright for. I will try and look back and add on here how much I've made in rabbit poop alone this year. I'll put it at the bottom of the screen for you to see right here. It might surprise you, it might not. And that's if I remembered to document all of it. I try really hard because we use it for tax purposes to show how much our farm has made this year. So there's a market for it. There is a supply of it when you have rabbits, so why not gather it and sell it? So we use it in our own garden, in our own raised beds, as I mentioned earlier, directly around the plant, directly in the hole as we plant, directly in the row as we plant, directly in the raised bed. I'm going to say directly because it is a cold compost. It's not going to burn your plants up like chicken manure. I cannot use chicken manure directly in my garden when I go to plant. It'll kill it. Chicken manure, it's November here. We just cleaned out the coop. We put it on the gardens or the raised beds now so that come what April, when we go to plant, it's had long enough to decompose and it won't be hot on our plants anymore. That's how we have to use chicken manure. We have to plan. This, I don't have to plan. I'm like, oh, I got some extra poop. Let's go throw it in the garden. Let's go throw it around a tree. Let's go put it around a bush. Whatever we need to do, we can use it at any point, and that's what makes it so awesome and valuable. So we use it a lot, but we also let the community use it as well. All right, let's talk about the 3 different stages of rabbit manure. When it first comes out of the rabbit, it is a nice brown little ball, about like a Cocoa Puff. I hate to use a food reference, but that's the best thing I got to offer you. If you have really, really big poops or long poops or little bitty ball poops, which little bitty ball poops is the kind that they eat. You won't see many of those. But if you have really big ones, you may have something with your rabbit that's causing a problem. And that might be a megacolon situation. We ran into that this year and the poop wouldn't fall through the wire. And I knew something was off with Mama because some days she'd be happy and some days she'd be sulking. And I come to find out she has an issue. She has a condition. So I won't be selling her offsprings. I won't be rebreeding her. She will be a cull rabbit. Her offsprings will be culls after they'll be meat, of course. But you'll know something's off with your rabbit. Number one, if they're not pooping like they should be, or if their shape is too big, or they're having a bunch of little hard ones that don't look like nice round little balls. So the first stage is that round brown ball. Second stage will be that round brown ball will start to grow mold, unless you dehydrate it, like sun it, put it on a drying rack out in the sun to dehydrate it, or put it in your dehydrator, whatever. If you dehydrate it in that round brown stage, it will stay round brown stage and not grow the mold. But if you're leaving it under your cages for an extended period of time, it will start to grow white mold. Sometimes there might be other colors in there, but most of the time it's just a white mold. That is the decomposing process beginning. When that happens, that is a sign that nature is doing its thing. It's not a sign that your poop is now bad. You can no longer use it. No, that's not the case. It's breaking down. After that white ball stage, then it starts to break down into a mush. You will have rabbit poop that is just a mushy texture that almost starts to look like more of a cow patty than a rabbit ball. And that's the third stage of it breaking down, which is ultimately where the nutrients can be most absorbed by the plant. It be broken down to a usable form. Any of 3 of those stages is fine and dandy to use on your garden. Some people ask me, what about if there's urine in my poop? Well, I will say this. We drill holes in our buckets to allow the urine to come out, to drain out of the poop. Now, there will be some that will build up in there. I don't do any special thing to separate the urine besides put holes in my bucket. If it's a really, really wet bucket, I may not sell it to somebody. I may use it for myself just because when it's really wet, it's really, really stinky. Sometimes people don't care and they're like, yeah, we don't care. Whatever's fine. It's poop. We're used to a little bit of smell. But if it's not very wet, the poop really won't have much of an odor. And so they really like those bags, I'm sure. But don't worry about doing anything extra special of drying out the poop before you use it on the garden. That urine's going to wash away anyways. If you're concerned when you go to use it, water the poop. Go ahead and water the poop in. Even if you're not concerned, there's nothing wrong with watering that poop in because it's going to help start the decomposition process if it hasn't already began. And it just continues to release it into the soil for the plant to absorb it. So don't stress over the urine. I've noticed that most of my rabbits pee like up against the wall outside of the bucket. I do have one mama in there that religiously pees in the bucket, and her bucket's always heavy and really strong smelling. I have heard some people use things like First Saturday lime around the poop to help with any odor that may be building up. That's not something I've experimented with yet. I may in the future. It's just another expense that I've not seen a need to buy, but if our rabbitry continues to grow, we may need to do something like that for odor control and the pleasantry of people arriving at our farm. And if I'm not getting to removing it fast enough, it may add up too. Smell really doesn't bother me. You know, we went to the severe solid waste on my daughter's field trip. And it's like where you pick your trash. That bothered me. That was so bad I couldn't stand it. I had my shirt over my nose and my nose plugged, and I said, we've got to leave. And so I wasn't going to make my daughter leave, but then when she said she was ready to go, I was like, okay, we got to go. I was about to get sick. Mama wasn't well. That I can't stand. Animal manure, it is what it is. Some people say it smells like money. I think if you're needing to say that, you're not doing a good job managing it. So manage your poop well. There will be a little bit of odor. They're animals. But it shouldn't be so bad that you can't take care of them. It's really only bad when you go to scoop it, put it into the buckets, so on and so forth. Once you're working in it, that does stir up the smell some. Otherwise, it's doable. Totally doable. So don't stress over the urine. Just put some holes in your bucket. Let it do its magic. Dump your poop into the bags to sell. We put them in bags, and I actually tote them up to the house and have them near the driveway for people to pick up. Then I let them pay either cash or Venmo. It is a non-tax item because it's a farm product. If I'm wrong on that, feel free to let me know. That's how I've interpreted it. And so there's no sales tax on it, so I can use my Venmo or cash and easily keep record. And then I give them a little flyer. I usually send it in pictures with about the poop. I educate my customers because you don't want them getting this poop and thinking, why is some of it white? Why is some of it mush? Why is some of it perfectly little brown balls? I thought it was going to be all brown balls. What's going on here? So I educate my customers once they've bought it, especially if they've never used rabbit poop before. I let them know, hey, it's going to look different in 3 different stages mainly. And you're going to be able to use it in any one of those 3 stages. So I want them equipped and to feel empowered to go forth and to use this manure comfortably in their garden. I put out a little post on my social media that I would take people's 50-pound plastic feed bags if they wanted to drop them off on my porch. And not everyone wants to do this, and that's totally fine, but you have people that love to donate their trash to you. And to me, that makes me feel great because it gives me a plastic bag to use to put my poop in, so I'm not going to the store and buying contractor bags for my poop. Note from the wise, do not put your rabbit poop in a paper feed bag. Been there, done that. I have a beautifully green patch on my front lawn from that experience. The bag busted. The poop, any urine in there will break down that bag, and your customer will go to pick it up and it will spill. Use plastic bags for your rabbit manure. They're out there. Our dog food comes in it. Our chicken feed just now started coming in them. Not my favorite. Black oil sunflower seeds that I get from people come in it. There's lots of options. The pine shavings come in it that we use in our chickens. Ask people to save them for you. 50 pounds and up will fit over your bucket. The 40-pound black oil sunflower seeds will also fit over your bucket. You want that bag to be able to go over your bucket, so then you just turn the bucket over and dump it out. Least amount of work as possible. So I have a storage room here that has all my bags in it to use when people request poop. I stockpile them up so that they're there, and they're not really in my way. And they do get a little dirty, but you know, it's poop coming from a farm. They can't expect it to be pristine. The last thing I wanted to share is that your manure will attract some bugs and grubs and larvae and all sorts of moving things. The chickens, if you have chickens, will love it. When I am scooping poop, I usually take a scoop full of poop full of those bugs to my chickens, and then it's also fertilizing my chicken area with rabbit manure, which most of the time it just gets chicken manure. So it adds another compost in there, a cold compost, to help the chicken area grow back, but it will not damage your plant. These are not grubs and bugs that's going to hurt your plant. It's stuff that's naturally going to be in your soil, breaking down this poop to turn it into compost for your garden. We've never had issues with the bugs in our poop causing problems to our animals or our plants. That being said, if you live in an area with a lot of flies and you end up with a lot of fly maggots in there, you will want to watch your rabbits for bot fly. I'm not 100% sure if it's a specific type of fly or what, but that bot fly can get into a rabbit and lay a maggot in the rabbit, which is super gross. And I've heard that some of that comes from the poop, but I think it comes from larger animal poop. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not educating you on that. I'm not making a video on that. But I do know how to treat bot fly if that comes in your rabbitry and you need help. I haven't done it personally, but I've helped a lot of people figure out how to take care of it. We've not had that issue here, knock on wood, praise the Lord. But I do know that people do struggle with that from time to time. And I think sometimes that has to do when they're also on the ground or they have access to the ground. And all of our breeders stay up off the ground, which makes the internet mad, but it keeps our rabbits safe, healthy, and able to breed at any point that we need them to, because they are healthy. I wouldn't want to breed an unhealthy rabbit. So there will be bugs and grubs and all sorts of fun stuff in the poop. Totally fine to still use it in your garden. Totally fine to let your chickens have some of it. It's not going to cause problems in your rabbitry. If you find that it is, let me know. That first Saturday lime might help with some of that too. I'm not 100% sure what all that does, but someone did recommend that to me. I hope you don't come here thinking that I know it all, because I don't. As I told you, I don't even know where the bot flies come from and what it is, and I just know they exist and that people struggle with them. But I do want to share what knowledge I have gained from raising rabbits. And I want to let you know that I can learn from you too. And so if you think of a better method, or you have a better method that works even better with this, let me know about it. I have seen the fancy trays under the rabbit cages where you just spray it down and it all goes in a bucket, and it sounds glorious, but it also sounds like work and money that I've never wanted to put in. I have put a total of $1 into my poop collection systems here at this rabbitry, and that was this year. Couple weeks ago, we stopped at a yard sale and I got 6 buckets for $1. That's the most I put into it, because all the other buckets I've had have been free. And I had told my husband I needed some buckets, and he's like, I don't have any access to any right now. And I was like, okay, well, I'll just keep my eye out. And sure enough, I went to a estate sale and there was a whole stack of buckets. Now, mind you, we had to drill them apart and air compress them apart and all those things, because stacked buckets is never a good idea unless they're the same kind of bucket. Then they're easier to remove. But these had some concrete and paint in them. I also had to wash out and get them ready to use poop. And so if some of those things become a scare for you in your crunchy world, that's fine too. Do whatever method works for you. But I've spent $1 on my method, and we're still getting along just fine. And I don't mind it. My buckets do look poopy and dirty, and I've had people tell me I need to power wash them as much as I put my pearls on. And I power wash them twice a year. So if that's not enough for you, then that's okay. You know, it's your rabbitry. You do your thing. They're still collecting poop. They're still doing a great job for me. They do get washed. It just may not be beautiful. It may not be pretty. If you're a very pride-involved person, this method may not be the best for you. You may need that tray where you wash them down. And if you have the budget for it, go for it. I'm sure it has a pros and cons with it, because I feel like you're going to also be washing that hay down with that poop. And then you're going to need to make sure you have a good straining system for that water to fall through and have a remnants of just the berries. So I know they probably work, and there are probably better systems out there. This is just my system, what's worked for me. Let me know in the comments if you have a better one, like I said, and if you have any questions about what we are doing here, I'll do my best to answer it. It's getting a little cold out here. I'm going to head to the house and make my family some lunch. And until next time, eat more rabbit! A rabbit lays between 230 balls of poop a day. I said lays. I think I meant releases, passes. How shall we term that?